We are awakening together. This is our weekly gathering we hold online. For more information, visit our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you there.
Good morning, everybody. So nice to be here with you. I need to change my view here in a second so I can see all the lovelies. All right, that's better. Nice to see you. Welcome. We are here for the Sunday gathering this morning. I'm honored to be here with you to share these moments together. And at this time, I'm going to have Marisol play our opening song. And it's the song We Are Awakening by Deva Permel and Mitten. And then we will greet each other on the board. Right. Thank you, Marisol. So I'm going to read our statement of purpose for Awakening Together. We are an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one true self and to rest in its embrace. And with our homily, we are asked to choose which core value. Tomorrow, we have 5 core values. We are to choose the one that we believe our homily is going to highlight. And I chose core value number 3, that we accept one true self, which is one presence or being, non-dual, without beginning or end, and absolutely changeless. And we live this value by practicing letting go of the belief in the individual self as who we are. Letting go, letting go, letting go. That's what we do. All right. So now I have some announcements, and let me pick those up. All right. So that will take us out of all the busyness part of our little journey this morning. Part of what inspired my topic really was the timing of the movie. I think I titled this homily the ego's final frontier spiritual hijack or something like that. So one of the things that, I come from recovery, and I've shared this with y'all many, many times. And one thing that is involved when you're involved in recovery, you have these yearly milestones that everybody wants to mark. So you have this new birthday, right? It's a recovery birthday. And there's something that happened, and mine's in the summertime. So there's always something that happens around that time where you become pretty reflective about things. And and then this movie showed up. And so there was this looking back. And so that's kind of what this homily is. It's some recognition of some missed opportunities in my journey, but in a pretty objective way. I think Holy Spirit has shown me some things in a gentle and loving way. So, but there's just some great things to look at, and we're going to start with my opening song, which I have a few playlists in my iTunes, and there are songs that resonate with me that I put on a playlist, and then there's songs that really light me up that have another playlist, and then there are songs that transport me, and this is the thing The unknown for me in every homily is I never know what the emotionality is going to be when I show up. It is always the variable. And so anyway, let us listen to this song. It played a big part in my early spiritual experience that we're going to talk about that has quite a bit to do with this homily. And it is the beautiful harmonies of Chicago, the group Chicago, and Marisol will play it now. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Join me in a prayer. Dear Father, I'm so grateful to share these moments as we come together. I ask that this time serve the healing and the awakening. May we all hear what is helpful to us today. May we open our hearts and our minds to what will guide us back home. Amen. All right. So this topic had been floating around in my head for a while. The spiritual hijack. Then I was out for a walk one day at work, and I was scrolling through Insight Timer. Insight Timer is great because you can have these little 10-minute blocks, 20-minute blocks. You let it know how much time you have, and you choose something. Hello, Missy Cat. She's been sleeping for the last 2 hours, and just now she needs to get up and say hi to everybody. And so in my scrolling, I saw this topic, and I wrote it down. So it was called Hijack, Overcoming the Tricks of the Mind. The teacher's name is Koshi. It is spelled Kosi. I had never heard of her before. And so I did some reading in her About section on Insight Timer, and there is a link to a website that's titled wisdomrock.org. And the talk was very helpful to me. So I did some transcription, very minimal editing, just because when you're taking the spoken and trying to put it in written form, you do make a couple changes. And so I got that done, and Joe is going to read it for us. There was one term in there that in her talk that neither Joe nor I was familiar with. So we did a little research. It's the Tirya Teta state. It's a Hindu term. And I asked AI and found one reference. States it's a Hindu concept, and it refers to 4 states of consciousness, and this tetra is the 4th. From my understanding, when she's referring to it, the context around it is she is talking about into the absolute. That's what I believe that what she is speaking of. So I am going to turn it over to Joe. I want to thank you so much for reading for me today, for all of us. So it's all yours, Joe.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. Thanks for allowing me the opportunity to read. Hello, everyone. And before I start, I just have to say, Kelly, that song, seeing the lyrics on the screen, when it said, "Who am I?" it just gives me a whole different way of seeing that whole whole song. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. The mind has the power to hijack even the most sublime, absolute truth. The truth that you are pure consciousness, that in the core of your being, you are free, that you are peace beyond all ideas of peace, and love beyond all ideas of love. You are pure conscious awareness. And the intellectual understanding of this absolute truth can lead to the mind hijacking this truth into a concept, encapsulating it into a concept of, quote, I am free, I am enlightened, end quote. And this encapsulation of absolute truth keeps you from deeper realizations of that living, eternal presence that is alive in your own heart. It is a trick of the mind. The mind hijacks what you read and understand with your mind, and it tricks you into thinking that you've actually realized that truth. Because when you read absolute truth, or you hear, quote, your love beyond all ideas of love, peace beyond all ideas of peace, end quote, it feels wonderful because this is a living truth of what you are in the core of your being. Yet the mind grabs a hold of that and takes it and makes it into a thing. But pure conscious awareness is not a thing, and it cannot be encapsulated. It cannot be grabbed or used as a new identity, as woke, as enlightened, as awake. The me that thinks it's awake is still very much in charge. So, for true deepening, for true realization, there is a profound realization that you are not in charge of your life and the circumstances of your life. It is a great humbling of the mind and ego, of this me that you think you are. Ancient teachers and masters from the beginning of time have recognized this power of mind to hijack spiritual truth and turn it into a superficial realization based on intellectual understanding. But true realization is transcendent of the mind, right? The mind cannot know realization. It is beyond knowing. It is beyond the knower. And the deepest realization is beyond the experience of realization. It's beyond the idea of, quote, I realized this, end quote. Who realized this? Who is this who? This is the inquiry of Ramana Maharshi. The energetic process of discovering the electromagnetic source within you, the vortex of the void, the unknowable presence of omniscience. So the practices become essential to cut through the very powerful illusion of you, so you can directly discover this infinite, eternal presence of you that is alive in your own heart. As you progress on the path, you have to really pay attention. As you progress on the path, you have to really pay attention and be vigilant, because the mind will hijack spiritual truth and trick you with it. So the vigilance must be acute as pure awareness, as pure presence in the clarity of now. Otherwise, the mind will trick and trap you into conceptual ideas of bliss and freedom. For the majority of people on the planet, freedom means doing whatever you want. Quitting your job, running away, going to the beach, hanging out, fighting in a protest march. This is now seen as freedom. But this is hijacking freedom as a concept. Freedom has nothing to do with you and what you want. So when we set out on the spiritual path, we are trying to make our lives better and get things going in the direction that leads to whatever we perceive as freedom. It takes a much deeper inquiry into what is this you that you think you are. Who are you really? It's that intimate examination of the ego, which is a root cause of any idea of freedom. This is why the mind is so tricky, because you can take ideas that you've read like, quote, I am the consciousness of the universe. I am one with everything, end quote, which generate a blissful feeling, but that blissful feeling comes and goes, right? You can't maintain that as long as there is an egoic identity. You can't maintain moments of bliss because that is a state of consciousness that comes and goes. States of consciousness are always fluctuating based on what you are giving your attention to. States of consciousness are always fluctuating based on what you are giving your attention to. And mostly we give our attention to what's going on in our environment, what people have done and said, and our thoughts about that. And the thoughts in your mind are what generate the emotions that you feel, which are your reaction to your circumstances. So to really mature on the spiritual path requires a willingness to look at yourself in the mirror and really intimately examine this me that you think you are, and focus on those aspects of yourself that are unwanted, that you don't want to see. The suppression of rage or the acting out of rage or endless sadness and despair, these must be faced fully. It must be met. The negative feelings of self-hatred or worthlessness, you must turn your attention to discover what is this feeling of worthlessness? What is this self-hatred or the feeling of unlovability? What does it mean? What is the essence of it? Where does it come from? This is the nature of inquiry. To open to discovery and not know. Capital letters, not know. The arrogance of knowing is what keeps you trapped in spiritual concepts that keep your realizations superficial. Your realizations will remain superficial if they remain in the conceptual realm of knowing. Well, I know this. I've experienced this. I want this. I want my life to go in this direction. I want to be in charge, end quote. So the inquiry is to flip that inside out and recognize that you never really were in charge of all the things that have unfolded in your life. There's a pure, omniscient intelligence that's in charge. And when you have the maturity to surrender to that intelligence and start trusting that intelligence over the limited perspective of your mind and ego, this is when real spiritual progress begins. To discover this, you have to really recognize that this me that you feel viscerally inside of you, that identifies consciousness with the physical form, is an illusion of reflective consciousness. You must realize this directly for yourself so that it's a direct, visceral experience. And it's a visceral experience of the Turiya state in your heart, which is pure silent awareness that begins the process of purifying your mind. And it's a visceral experience of the Turiya state in your heart, which is pure silent awareness that begins the process of purifying your mind, purifying the genetics of your physical form. This purification process is essential because it's the unconscious tendencies of mind and the conditioned experience of life, those things you've learned as you progressed in your life, that becomes a giant cloud over your consciousness. And even if you've had moments of bliss, this is just a state of the living truth that you are, and it can't last as long as the ego is in charge, as long as you believe your thoughts. So the sadhana, the practices, are the support that's essential for letting go of conscious and unconscious tendencies. And it's the energetic friction of this process of letting go and this process of purification that enables you to see more and more clearly. The result of practicing the teaching of Ramana Maharshi is profound presence and clarity. Clarity and the space to live as now. Not trying to get to now or stay in now, but realizing deeply, intimately, that you are the infinite now. The nowness of now. Beyond all concepts, beyond all ideas. Beyond all past realizations that you've had or realizations that you want to have. You have to let go of all of that and have no expectation. So moments of bliss and moments of realization that generate an expansion of your consciousness and the euphoria of bliss is a state that will change. But the turiya state of the heart is unchanging. It is steady. It is beyond all ideas of bliss. It is not the high that you can get, that extreme euphoria. And the bliss high can cause you to keep trying to get back to that bliss high. And so bliss becomes a new spiritual drug. I'm going to this teacher and that teacher and reading about this master and that master to get back to the bliss. So let go of that experience of bliss, because the bliss itself, that experience has been grabbed by your mind. It's been hijacked by your mind, and now you're trapped in an experience that you had. And in many cases, that bliss experience might have happened several years ago. So the challenge is to let go of the bliss experience or the desire for that bliss experience and discover the bliss that never comes and never goes. And then transcend that. Go even deeper into the turiya theta state, which is beyond the experiencer. There is no doer. There is no experiencer in that realm. It's beyond description. This can be directly realized and experienced with the practice of letting go of ideas, letting go of conscious and unconscious tendencies, doing the practice essential to burn through the karma that's stored in your genetics. So there's really no avoiding the work required. So there's really no avoiding the work required for moksha. Moksha is liberation from countless lifetimes, countless eons of suffering. This is no small task, and it's no small effort. Mastery leads to profound clarity. Profound clarity requires profound discipline and focus. Training your attention on the source again and again and again until a deeper and deeper perspective leads you to realize you are that unending presence. There is no you. There is no me. There is no other to push or fight against or resist. So this discipline is essential, and it's the discipline that leads to mastery and clarity and stillness and the ultimate freedom of moksha, which is alive in your heart. It's a living electromagnetic energy, and when you give your attention to that as electromagnetic energy, which is the nature of consciousness, you are absorbed in that. But it's not about doing what you want or getting what you want. It's about letting go, being present wherever you are, and accepting fully, completely, and totally what is, whatever it is, and not resisting it, not fighting it, not trying to change it or manipulate it, trying to get it your way or fix it. Acceptance of what is, fully accepting what is, is the discipline necessary for realizing that which cannot be realized with the mind. It can only be experienced directly as the heart. That's the end. Thank you.
Ooh, thank you, Joe. You did an awesome job. Thank you. Appreciate that. So there was much in there. And I go back to the song. So I don't know when that song was released, but I know that I was a early adolescent. And for me, it obviously was about it was a love story, right? That's how I always heard it then, right? That I've been searching so long for Mr. Right, and you finally showed up, right? And then in 1988, I had this spiritual experience, and during that experience, that song came to me again, and it was a beautiful description of what was going on with me at that time, and it was all around, it was all around recovery. I around the idea of a spiritual hijack. So prior to this, right? Prior to recovery, Marianne Williamson used to say that the ego is happiest if it can keep you just mildly miserable. It doesn't want you to get incredibly miserable, because that will bring you to a point maybe of surrender and looking under the covers and kind of questioning some stuff. So just this little mild misery is best. Well, things had progressed in my life, and I was young, but things had progressed to where it was intolerable, right? The suffering in my life had become intolerable. An accumulation of just that conditioning of who I thought I was, that I am bad belief, all of that stuff had come to a head, and I had discovered alcohol to help settle all that stuff down, right? And so it had progressed to a point of certainly pondering the ending of this identity, Kelly, at that point in time, right? So it had kind of crossed the line, and my life changed as a result of a choice, simply a choice, a very obvious. I was sitting on the couch. I had been invited to a AA meeting, and my choice was to go to this meeting or to continue and remain on that couch feeling sorry for myself, right? Feeling sorry for my poor, pitiful condition. And I chose the meeting. And my life changed. This was in April of '88, 180 degrees as a result of that. And it happened fairly quick, right? So there had been this bottoming out. Just as a point of desperation leading to questioning, one too many tequilas and one night stands, and I finally came to a point of surrender. Okay. And so when I walked out of that meeting, there was hope. There was a love that I experienced, different than anything I'd ever known. There was a sense of it was going to be okay, and that I was loved and I was not alone. And like I said, this happened pretty quick. and the change was remarkable in that everybody around me noticed it, because it was pretty quick. And um, I was able to, how it appeared to me was that in one moment I was able to literally switch world and switch a script. Peace and love as I had never known was my experience. And then, and in that period of time, and this was a genuine experience, right? I didn't even understand what had happened, right? I didn't understand what was going on within me. But I knew that something was different, and I knew I was grateful for it, and I knew that it was saving my life. I knew that that was the truth. And I was very grateful. And the beauty of it was within that experience, this Kelly really moved into the background, and this experience of love became the foreground. And I operated in that for a period of time. And I would be asked to speak, right? So I would go and I would talk about this experience, and I was really felt guided to help and to be of service, and that's just kind of the natural extension of what was going on within me. That in Koshi's talk, she talks about these ideas, these concepts of I am love, I am loved beyond love, I am peace beyond all ideas of peace. And these messages were being given to me through my heart. It was very real and very genuine. And over time, and part of what happened to me was I did not understand, one, what was happening to me. I misunderstood. I misread the tea leaves, right? So the experience was designed. It was this letting in of light into this darkness that I had been experiencing up until that time, letting in this light. The ego had an opportunity to use that to make me special. It made Kelly special in that moment, right? And I didn't understand that, obviously, right at the time. I was just kind of moving through it. But in hindsight, as I watched this process, right, and I really do feel like I was guided to look back and take a look, and I'm grateful for the look. But what happened was, and Koshi talks very, very clearly about it, what helped put some things in perspective for me was that it's about taking on identity, right? So I had this experience of this identity kind of falling away, and that's what revealed who I really was, and the love and all that stuff, right? And then at some point it took this identity, and all of a sudden I became a spiritual seeker. And I continued that, quote, becoming a spiritual seeker for years. I mean, Koshi refers to, you can be attached to this bliss state that you had that could have taken place quite some time ago. It's coming up on, 35 years ago that this experience happened. And I know that, part of this process, I know this today, and this is because of the teachings I've discovered here at Awakening Together. I'm so grateful for that experience was allowing light to come in for me. But the purpose of light is like this image came to me of a light beam in your living room that reveals, 1,000 times dust motes within that nice little, shadow of light. The light was given me at that time to begin to look at the dust mote. I didn't understand that. I thought the arrogance of the ego said, "You're done, you're cooked, you did it, you have arrived, you got this," right? And there was, because there are things in recovery to do, and there is an inventory process, and I faced what I could. I faced what I was able to face at that time. I was still only 23 years old. There was a lot of life to be led, but I faced what I could during that time. And one of the things that I see now that happened was, so coming from this place of some peace and this revelation of who I was in truth, right? Then the dust motes start coming up, right? And I get irritated or frustrated, or I get angry. And the ego attaches an idea of, oh, no, that won't work because I'm the one who's peaceful. I'm the one who's kind. I'm the one who is enlightened, right? So, and it happens so quick. The hijack happens so quick, right? So you have this great opportunity to look at whatever has presented itself: anger, frustration, fear. You have that opportunity, and the hijack is that won't do. It does not fit the image of the spiritual one. It does not match up. So therefore it needs to be pushed down. And we're not going to look at it this time. So having had an incredibly genuine experience, it was an experience, and it was to move through. And I have hung on to that for the longest time. And what the ego does for me with that, and so now, I can use it as, something to beat myself up over, for sure. And the ego has tendencies to do that. But I can see that there's these two interpretations that have gone on with this hijack. One interpretation, truly from the egos, is that it's this incredible demonstration of that trinity of the tiny mad idea, right? So how the ego has interpreted that for me is that I was given this incredible gift of realization. I was told who I am. This is who you are in truth. I was open. I was loved. I was loving. I mean, it was this open, beautiful space, right? The tiny mad idea was I began to identify with that as an identity, as opposed of a revelation of who I was. So there is the idea of, then I chose against God, right? I was given this gift and I got hijacked. So I'm guilty for that. There is a sin, right? Choosing against God by getting hijacked, and all of a sudden, using all the spiritual symbols as just a chance to rebuild the ego, right? It happens on any kind of spiritual path. So there was the idea of that I've sinned, then there's guilt, and then there's fear. And so the fear underneath all this that has finally been uncovered is that I'm afraid there's never going to be another window. And that's the hijack. Because the truth is, I am given moment by moment the opportunity to continue to look at the dust motes, right? It's simple. There's purification to be done. That's all it means, right? That's all it means. And the beauty of what I'm coming to understand is that this stuff will come around until you look. And it will always come back around. It's always ready. So I have this, and this is just my imagination, but so indulge me a little bit because, I just see that, how the ego wants to keep the game going. I mean, that's truly what it kind of needs to do, right? Keep that mild misery. It's kind of like the Truman Show, all those kinds of things. We got to keep this script going and we got to keep making it look real. And so if somebody, comes to that point of surrender, I could just see this ego problem solving thing going on where it's like, oh God, what are we going to do now? Right? They've crossed over. We've lost them, and they kind of look and said, well, we can get another good 30 years out of this. There's a lot of books to read about being spiritual. There's a lot of teachers. There's a lot of seeking still to be had. We'll just switch the symbols around, right? There's still good comparison games to play with spiritual friends, right? There's still that competition. There's, who's got it going on, who's clearer, who's less than, all that stuff that my ego can bring into any environment. Certainly a spiritual environment can just keep bringing it on, right? So what I'm it's like I've been around here a while, I guess is the bottom line. I've been around here a while and I've been with these incredible teachers, the teachers that I believe to be true teachers for me, that I have found in Awakening Together. Regina was an incredible gift to me, but it's taken me a while to hear it all, because I thought I knew, right? I would hear things. I'm like, I did that, right? I knew that. And I was in a hijack the whole time. I was just identifying with concepts of being spiritual, right? I couldn't see it, but we had a guy that was in meetings with me early on, and he would talk about this idea of that if we're not careful, we use spiritual tools as a way of creating a better ego, a healthier ego. He would come in and he would say, I've been bad, but now I'm going to be good, right? I was bad, I did bad things, and now I'm going to get good and be good. And you cannot wish this self-centeredness away, right? And self-centeredness is just that belief, that incredibly tenacious and strong belief in the idea of a personal self, a personal separate identity. And real progress is started when you're really willing to recognize that this is about letting go of all identity. And it helped me to understand why I'm resistant to some of those practices. The ego does not want to go into silence. The ego does not want to go into the void because it's not there. And there is a strong resistance to that. And I finally understand that resistance. And I finally understand that there is purification to be done. And that's okay. That is not, I have not sinned. I have not been bad. I did not choose against God. I did not make a mistake that is not forgivable by being hijacked. I am brought into many now moments to choose again, to just choose again. Some days it's harder to choose again. Some days I don't. Some days Kelly goes on a rampage. And then other days she goes back to the background and she's in charge of stuff like what's for dinner and driving a car and doing a job and, you know, that kind of stuff. So I just have been really grateful for this opportunity to reflect and look at that and let go of that. And so there's perfect timing. There always is. And so our next song is about Koshi's talked a little bit about what happens when we get so lost in all these concepts, etc., that it's just cloud cover. And I love that symbol, right? I love that symbol. In recovery, we talk about things blocking the sunlight of the spirit, that's all these false ideas are. That's all what these concepts do, is they block the sunlight. And it's just like a cloud over who we really are. And the work is investigating those clouds and seeing how superficial they are, right? And being willing to go below them. And so that's what our next song is to kind of highlight that feeling of when we gain a little clarity for however long it lasts. I'm grateful for it today. I'm grateful for that clarity. And it is time to remind folks that if you feel called to donate to Awakening Together, we live on donations, and it helps us continue to provide all the programming that we do. And there is a link in the chat in order to do just that. So Marisol's going to play our contemplation song. Thanks, Marisol. All right, thank you. We have just a little bit of time. If anybody wanted to share something, we could. Awesome. Dove.
Unmute, Dove.
Yeah. Thank you. I was saying thank you so much, Kelly, for sharing that. I resonate totally. You had that, what I call a peak experience at a younger age than me. You had it at 23, and that's wonderful. That certainly puts you on the spiritual path for sure. I had the same thing happen when I was 32. I call it my spiritual awakening. Prior to that, I was complete ego. But what happened at that time is I had not been sleeping for 24 hours, and I was just ready to crash. And someone said, "Well, you can come crash at my place." And I said, "Okay." And I thought I was going to go to sleep, but when you haven't slept for 24 hours, you have no defenses. You are defenseless. Because when you're up early in the morning, I'm full of vigor. So she said, "Well, I'm going to take one of these. If you want, you can have one too." And it was a mescaline mushroom. And I took it, and I cried for hours. I call it orgasmic crying. And the crying is removing the poisons and toxins that were in my mind.
Mm.
And just like you, I had this incredible window. Didn't last for a day or two. It lasted for a month or two. And then I lost it. And I said, wait, I want to have it again.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in 72. In 75, I found S, and I posed a question to the trainer at the time, and he says, you can't have it again. That was a peak experience. You can only have it now. You know, you can't go back and try and capture something that it's gone, but you can have it right now. So the fear that the window won't appear is certainly just the ego's belief system, because it's always right here, right now. I did put up in the chat the idea we are responsible for polishing the mirror. Now, whatever polishing the mirror, because the mirror is in my mind. It's not certainly, no one is teaching me anything. I have to polish my own mind, clear my mind, get rid of the poisons and toxins, which you use the word purification, which Miracles Principle number 7 says. Miracles are everyone's right, which is the window that you were speaking of. But purification is necessary first. That's the only one of the 50 principles that we are responsible for, is that purification. So thank you, Joe, for liking my shirt. That's my that was my wife, Suzanne, and she's always with me. That's my sharing. Thank you so much, all.
Thank you so much, Doug. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and play our closing song, and then we'll move into fellowship. Thank you all. Love you all. Thank you.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.